The Golden Empire. What if Mansa Musa industrialized Africa? We are often told that the modern age of billionaires began with the industrial titans of the 19th century or the tech giants of our contemporary era. We look at names like Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk and see the pinnacle of human wealth. But in our present reality, these men are absolute paupers compared to Mansa Musa, the 14th century emperor of Mali. His fortune was so vast that it was literally immeasurable. When he embarked on his famous pilgrimage to Mecca, he distributed so much gold in Cairo that he accidentally crashed the entire Egyptian economy for a decade. It is the only time in human history that one Monaco's generosity caused a regional financial collapse. But imagine if that wealth wasn't just given away. In our world, the golden age of Mali eventually faded into the sands of time. But in this timeline, Mansa Musa doesn't just bring back poets and architects from his journey. He brings back a vision that would terrify the kings of Europe. Deep in the Sahara, whispers begin to spread of a secret factory founded in 1324 Okoa Place, where the first steam engine was hammered out of solid gold. Today, we are opening the gates to an alternate history where the Industrial Revolution didn't start in the coal mines of England, but in the gold mines of West Africa. I will reveal the great saboteur who tried to stop this future at the very end of this video. But first, we need to see how the golden engine changed the world. In 1324, as Mansa Musa returns from the east, he doesn't just bring gold back to his Piepliaco, brings the greatest minds of the medieval world. He offers the worldico's best alchemists, metallurgists, and engineers a simple, life-changing deal. Come to Timbuktu, and I will give you more gold than you can carry. All you have to do is build the future. This marks the birth of the trans-Saharan tech corridor, a string of research hubs stretching across the desert, linked by a highly efficient and secure camel post system. The relatability effect here is staggering for anyone watching in our current day and age. While Europe is literally dying and shivering under the shadow of the Black Death, Timbuktu is rapidly becoming the Silicon Valley of the 14th century. It is a place where innovation isn't a hobby for the elite, but a state-funded mandate. Imagine a world where the brightest minds didn't flee to the monasteries of Italy, but to the libraries of the Sahel. This concentration of brainpower creates a pattern break in human history, the first time that infinite capital was combined with infinite curiosity. The result is a society that doesn't just survive the medieval Iroquois leaps over it. By 1350, the famous University of Sankore in Timbuktu has been transformed. In our history, it was a center of law and religion, but in this world, it is the global capital of physics and chemistry. Malian scientists, backed by the Emperor Roko's endless treasury, begin investigating the very nature of energy. While trying to figure out how to keep the imperial palace cool in the blistering Saharan heat, they accidentally discover the fundamental principles of thermodynamics. This isn't just theory, it's Toko's application. They developed the first solar still to provide fresh water to the desert outposts, and, more importantly, the first high-pressure piston designed to move water from the Niger River to the deep desert mines. Does that sound impossible? In our world, invention is often delayed by a lack of resources. But in Musuoko's Mali, they have the infinite budget that leads to infinite innovation. The high stakes of this era are no longer about conquering land, but about conquering the environment. The desert is no longer an obstacle. It is a laboratory for a civilization that has learned to command the elements. In our history, the first steam engines were built from cast iron to pump water out of the coal mines of England. But in the world of the golden engine, the first locomotives are built from reinforced gold and copper to transport the wealth of the Sahel. By 1400, the Malian Expressocoa golden-clad steam locomotive Iroquois pulling hundreds of tons of cargo across the desert plains. Imagine the pattern break of this scene. A knight in 15th century Europe is still struggling with a muddy horse, while a Malian merchant is traveling at 30 miles per hour in a climate-controlled rail car. This technological gap makes the term civilized look like a joke. The Empire of Mali has become a steam-powered superpower while the rest of the world is still in the dark. But as the golden tracks begin to reach the coast, a new question arises. If the land is already conquered, what happens when the eagle of Mali looks toward the sea? The answer lies across the Atlantic. But to understand that, we must first address why this incredible future is missing from our history books. In our present reality, we are taught that the age of discovery began with small wooden caravels from Portugal and Spain. But in the timeline of the Golden Empire, the ocean is not a barrier. It is a canvas for Malian engineering. By the time our history reaches the early 15th century, Malian explorers have already perfected steam-powered, ironclad ships. Imagine the sight from the coast of what we call Brazil in 1420, 70 years before Columbus ever set sail. Instead of a tiny wooden boat, a giant ship made of metal and wood, breathing thick black smoke like a dragon, pulls into the harbor. These are the ships of the Malian Lake, and they don't come to conquer, they come to trade. The relatability effect here is the shock of a world turned upside down. While the kings of Europe are still arguing over borders in the mud, the Emperor of Mali is signing trade treaties across the Atlantic. This is the first pattern break of the global era, a world where the West didn't discover the East, but the South discovered the West. When the Malian merchants step off their iron ships, they don't bring smallpox or steel swords for war. They bring silk, gold, and the world's most advanced agricultural tools. Imagine you are an Aztec farmer, and men wearing robes of fine Malian silk offer to buy your corn for prices you cannot even imagine. Itoko's not an invasion. Itoko's the Worldico's first global gold rush. They set up Malian ducat exchanges in the Aztec and Inca capitals, integrating the Americas into a global financial system centuries early. This creates a curiosity bridge. How would the Americas have evolved if their first contact with the Old World was a business meeting rather than a massacre? In this world, the massive stone pyramids of the sun meet the golden steam engines of the Sahel, creating a hybrid civilization that dominates the Western Hemisphere. The high stakes are no longer about survival, but about who can control the flow of the new global currency. In our contemporary era, the US dollar is the standard for global trade. But in the world of the Golden Empire, the Malian ducat is the undisputed global reserve currency. If you want to buy spices in India, silk in China, or timber from the cold forests of the north, you need Malian gold. Timbuktu becomes the financial capital of the planet, a city that surpasses the historical importance of London, New York, or Tokyo. The Bank of Mali dictates the interest rates for every kingdom on earth, effectively controlling the pulse of the global economy. Think about the emotional anchor for a 16th century person. Wealth isn't a piece of paper. Itoko's a coin stamped with the face of a Malian emperor. This leads to a fascinating question: would you have invested in the Malian stock market in 1500? Because in this timeline, that was the only way to become a billionaire. As we move into the 18th century of this timeline, Malian engineers reach a turning point. In our history, this was the era of coal and soot. But the scientists of the Sahel realized that coal is dirty, expensive, and limited. They look at the one thing they have more of than any other nation, the relentless Saharan sun. They develop early solar thermal collectors, massive, polished mirrors that focus the Sunoco's rays to create high-pressure steam. By the middle of the 18th century, Mali becomes the Worldico's first green superpower. They have discovered a clean, infinite source of energy that powers their factories, their high-speed desert trains, and their massive, climate-controlled cities. The Sahara is not a wasteland in this world. It is the Worldico's largest power plant. With infinite solar energy, the Malian Empire tackles the greatest challenge of the desert: water. Using massive solar-powered desalination plants on the coast, they pump fresh water deep into the interior of the continent. The relatability for our current day and age, where we struggle with drought and climate change, is profound. In this timeline, the Sahara is blooming. Imagine a desert that has been transformed into a lush, interconnected network of orchards and experimental farms. This green revolution ensures that no one in the empire ever goes hungry, creating a level of social stability that prevents the rise of radical movements. The pattern break here is the realization that a superpower doesn't need to destroy the environment to grow. It can use the environment to thrive. Mali has built a sustainable empire that makes our modern industrial history look primitive and wasteful. Timbuktu, once a center for law and religion, has now evolved into the world's leading space research hub. Because they mastered solar energy and advanced metallurgy so early, their gaze shifts from the sands to the stars. While the rest of the world is still trying to understand basic electricity, Malian astronomers are mapping the solar system with precision telescopes powered by solar glass lenses. This creates a massive open loop. If Africa industrialized first and mastered the sun in the 1700s, where would they be by the time they reached our current age? They are no longer building for the next decade. They are building for the next millennium. But as the empire reaches its peak, we have to look back and ask, why didn't this happen in our timeline? Why isn't Mali the richest country on Earth today? The answer is a dark secret known as the Great Sabotage. Weokov spent this video exploring a world of golden trains and solar-powered deserts. But now, we must address the Great Sabotage. The reason this future was stolen from us in our own history. Many people assume it was a foreign king or a jealous neighbor that brought down the wealth of Mali. But the truth is far more terrifying because it is an enemy that lives inside every superpower. In our world, the sabotage wasn't a military invasion. It was a psychological collapse. The very wealth that Mansa Musa created endless, immeasurable gold become the empire's resource curse. When wealth is too easy to find, innovation begins to die. This is a pattern break for the viewer. It wasn't a lack of money that destroyed Mali. It was too much of it. In our timeline, the Malian elites became lazy. They stopped building new engines and started fighting over the existing gold. Imagine a society where the brightest minds stopped being engineers and started being rent-seekers, living off the interest of their ancestors' wealth rather than creating something new. This is the emotional anchor of the Storyokoth tragedy of a civilization that forgot how to dream because it was too comfortable. In our world, the secret factory of Timbuktu was burned down during a civil war in 1450, and the blueprints for the solar collectors were lost for 300 years. The sabotage worked in our history because no one was guarding the future. They were too busy guarding their vaults. But in the world of the Golden Empire, they caught the saboteurs before the fire could spread. They realized that the real great saboteur was greed. To survive the resource curse, the Malian Empire had to reinvent itself. This led to a period of internal conflict known as the War of the Two Sunsakoa struggle between the old gold elites who wanted to keep things the same and the new light engineers who wanted to push into the solar age. This was the high-stakes moment of their history. If the engineers lost, the empire would have crumbled into the sand just like it did in our world. But they won. They transformed the gold from a currency into a specialized industrial material, using its unique conductivity for their advanced electrical grids. They turned their greatest weakness into their greatest strength. The difference between a ruin and a superpower was just one successful security guard at the factory gates. If you were to look at a map of the world in our contemporary era in this timeline, West Africa would be the undisputed heart of the planet. Timbuktu is a city of millions, a sprawling megalopolis of white stone and glass, powered entirely by the Saharan sun. The relatability effect for a modern viewer is the shift in global influence. In this world, the top universities, the most influential fashion brands, and the most powerful tech companies are all headquartered in the Sahel. When people talk about the dream, they don't look toward the west, they look toward the south. The Malian Express Hyperloop connects the entire continent, allowing a traveler to go from Cairo to Casablanca in a single afternoon. Mansa Musa's legacy in this world isn't that he gave away gold, but that he invested in the human mind. By bringing back the world's best alchemists and architects, he created a trans-Saharan tech corridor that outlasted the gold itself. We see a world that is cleaner, wealthier, and more stable because one man decided to use his infinite budget for infinite innovation. It is a world that skipped the dark ages of coal and oil and went straight to the power of the sun. Mali didn't just become a superpower, it became the guardian of the planeto's future. As we close the book on this golden empire, we are forced to look at our own world. We see a history where the wealth of Africa was exploited rather than celebrated. But the pattern break for us today is the realization that the potential is still there. The sun still shines on the Sahara, and the legacy of Timbuktu is still waiting to be reclaimed. Thank you for exploring this gilded timeline with us. The story of Mansa Musa and his industrial Mali reminds us that the difference between a golden age and a dark age is often just a single decision, a choice to build for the future rather than just consuming the present. Now, I want to hear from you in the comments, because this is the ultimate question of progress. If you were the leader of a nation with infinite wealth today, would you distribute it to your people to solve their immediate hunger? Or would you follow Mansa Musa's secret factory plan and invest it all in a technology that might not pay off for 100 years? Which path truly saves a civilization? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.